The world of One Piece is a brutal place. It's ruled by a corrupt government that discriminates, kills, and erases anything that stands against it. The Marines, who are supposed to protect the people, are the villains of the story for the most part. There is no clear line between good and evil, and frankly, even most of the pirates that roam the seas do not have good intentions. As long as they get their money and their power, they don't care about anything else. The Marines and pirates combined ruin thousands of lives, maybe millions around the world, leaving children orphaned, families destroyed, and dreams crushed. However, there are a few of these pirates that roam the seas for different reasons. In this harsh world where hope is hard to find, these select few stand up for the weak and give them a place that they can call home. Among these pirates stood one particular man, a man who cared not for treasures or wealth or power or influence. He set out to seek something he had once lost, or perhaps never had in the first place. In his journey to find and build this dream of his, he ended up amassing power, acquiring wealth and treasures beyond belief. But it was a dream that kept him going. A dream of a poor child in a small village that was left to die. It was a dream that yearned to be fulfilled, and a dream that could not be achieved overnight, yet he still tried. It was a dream that made him the strongest man in the world. A dream that gave purpose to his life and also resulted in his death. This video is about a character that inspired me, a character named Edward Newgate, a simple man with a simple dream. Well, the question first arises, why did Edward choose the pirate life? As a child, Edward grew up on a small island called Sphinx. It was originally connected with the world government, as a lot of islands are, but there was a problem. The people there were poor, and they didn't have the most resources, and therefore could not pay the heavenly tax that most of these islands are forced to pay. And so the world government abandoned them, leaving them to die essentially, with little to no food or water. The children there grew up in poverty and despair, with war and conflict breaking out, leaving many of them orphaned or dead. Edward was among these children, and looking back, it makes complete sense why he would be a pirate. Why should he follow the rules of the very people that, in his eyes, took everything away from him? Why should he work with those that ruined his life? From here on out, we don't know much of the specifics of Edward's adventures, except a few tales like his journey on the Rocks crew, but we do know what his goals were. One of them was supporting the island of Sphinx. From what I can tell, everything Edward earned in his pirate years was sent back to that island to make it a better place with better resources. He created a foundation for the children there to grow up better than he did, rather than keeping the money for himself. When thinking about this though, I realized that many people who would have grown up in such an environment as Edward might have turned out quite differently. Some people would be greedy for that money because, well, they've never had it. They would set out to sea because they'd want to be rich, and hey, that's fair enough, but Edward didn't turn out like that. And well, that leads right into his other goal, his invaluable dream. Even stronger than his desire for wealth and power, there was another thing that he never had and so desperately wished for: a family. At some point during his conflict-filled past, he either lost his family or just never had one, and so that became his primary goal rather than power or money. I think that just shows that even from childhood, Edward always had a kind heart and a very strong resolve. It's not easy for someone growing up in such circumstances to have hope through the darkest of times, to hold on to the hope that he could one day have something that means much more than just monetary or material value. That's what's so admirable about Edward as a person. He is driven to get what he wants, no matter what he has to do to get it. And we get to see that quite well later on. And so, as he travels on, Edward, now gaining the title of Whitebeard, begins building his dream, his family. As he recruits his members, he doesn't just treat them like subordinates or someone beneath him. He treats them like, well, sons. All of his crew members call him Pops or Old Man or Father, and this creates a special bond between everyone in the crew. Edward takes in many who are orphaned or don't have anywhere to go and gives them a place to live, gives them a family, something he'd always wanted as a child. And it's not like Whitebeard forces these children to call him Pops. They do it because they genuinely see him as a father figure. He gives everyone equal amounts of thought, treats them all like his children, and becomes someone more to them than just a pirate captain. From here on out, the Whitebeard pirates made a name for themselves, and as Whitebeard was one of the few people who could ever have matched Goldie Roger because of the nature of his devil fruit, which had the potential of destroying the entire world, Edward Newgate was named one of the 4 emperors of the sea. And it was around this time that Ace joined the crew. Ace was of course Goldie Roger's son, and his whole life he hated his father. Ace's very existence was something people feared, people loathed, and he cursed his father for that. To him, Roger was also the reason his mother died, because she protected Ace from the world government's hands. Ace was the devil's child, and if anybody found that out, he would be killed. However, that was when he met Whitebeard. He challenged Edward to a fight, got instantly defeated, and thought that he would be killed. However, Edward saw great potential in him and took him in as a son. Ace, of course, didn't accept that, continuing to try and kill Whitebeard at every opportunity that he found. But one day, when Ace asked Marco why everyone calls Whitebeard by the name Pops, Marco gives him a simple but heartwarming answer. He says that people like them, pirates, outcasts, orphans, are hated by everyone. But when Whitebeard calls them his sons so dearly, it makes them feel like they belong somewhere. It makes them feel happy, even if it's just a small word like son or Pops. He gave them a life that they never thought they could have, being hated as they were, and that hit particularly hard for Ace because he was one of the most hated beings in the world. And at the end of the day, isn't that what a family really is? Much more than just simply being related by blood, but being a group of people where you can be yourself, feel welcomed, and not be afraid of what everyone else thinks of you. That is what Whitebeard always wanted, and that is what he gave thousands of his children that joined the Whitebeard pirates. And then when Ace told Whitebeard that he was the son of Roger, Whitebeard simply said, "Oh, that's all you wanted to tell me? Here I thought you would tell me something of actual importance." Edward didn't care who Ace's dad was, because that didn't define who Ace was. This meant a lot to Ace. For the first time in his life, he could be in a place without being afraid of his father's legacy, without worrying about people finding out he was the son of the most dangerous man in the world. Whitebeard accepted Ace for who he was, and so Ace was free of his chains, free of his fears, and proudly began to call Whitebeard his real father. This leads us into Whitebeard's greatest battle. Yes, he might have fought many more epic battles in his prime, but this one was different. This one was not about protecting himself or fighting for the fun of it. This was about family. This was about taking responsibility. Although for the most part, Edward taking in people and giving them a place to stay was a successful and positive journey, there was but one stain on it. That stain is a man named Marshall D. Teach, or Blackbeard. Blackbeard killed Thatch, a fellow crew member, a member of this family that Teach had been a part of, and then fled the crew, leaving everyone enraged. Ace, being the 2nd Division commander, the division that Teach was a part of, took it upon himself to find Teach and make him pay for his betrayal. Whitebeard tried to stop him, but Ace wouldn't listen. And that is where everything went wrong. Ace found Blackbeard, fought him, but ended up losing, and Teach gave him to the Marines. The Marines now not only had custody of Whitebeard's 2nd Division commander, but also Goldie Roger's son. As all of this is happening, I want you to think about what would have been going on in Whitebeard's head. One of his sons betrayed him, killed another son of his, and then handed Ace over to the government. Although it is technically none of Whitebeard's fault, he is, after all, their father. I'm sure he was thinking, I wish I raised Teach better. I wish I could have gotten closer to him and stopped any of this from happening. I wish I could have talked to Ace a little bit more and held him back. I wish it was me and not them. As a parent, no matter how much your children mess up, you still love them and sometimes blame yourself for their shortcomings. To Whitebeard, this was his biggest loss. He must have fought many battles, suffered many losses, but this hit the hardest. And so Edward Newgate, an Emperor of the Sea, the strongest man in the world, wages an entire war, not for his 2nd Division commander, not for the Pirate King's son. Whitebeard wages war for his son. While most pirates would either brush it off or just come to terms with one of their crew members being caught, this man challenged the very might of the world government. This is how much family means to Whitebeard. It's not just for show, it's not just a term he uses, he loves these people truly like they were his own children. The entire force of the Whitebeard pirates show up to Marineford, over 1,500 pirates, to save the life of their family member. However, before all the crazy stuff happens, there is one moment that truly showed us what kind of a man Edward Newgate is. Out of the 1,500 or so members of the Whitebeard fleet, there was a man named Squard. He was loyal to Whitebeard, but there was something in his past that haunted him. Squard's original crew was destroyed by Goldie Roger, leaving only himself to survive. When he found out that Ace was Roger's son, he felt betrayed. And on top of that, Akainu told him on the battlefield that Whitebeard was planning to betray them all and leave them to die. Akainu said that Whitebeard made a deal with the Navy to serve his own interests. He then tells Squard that if he stabs Whitebeard, his own father, he will let all the allied pirates live. To Squard, Ace was the son of the man who took everything away from him, so it wasn't too hard to convince him. Fueled by his hatred for Roger, Squard caught Whitebeard off guard and stabbed him. The entire crew was enraged. It seemed that Whitebeard was extending his hand to punch Squard, making him pay for what he had cost everyone on this battlefield, but instead he pulls his son into an embrace. In the middle of this all-important do-or-die war, Whitebeard gives his son a hug and starts talking to him like a father. He tells him that he understands how much Squard hates Roger and how painful that must be. He knows that it's not easy to come to terms with, but he asks Squard, "What has Ace done to you? Is it fair to blame the son for his father's sins?" Whitebeard continues to remind him of all the times Ace and Squard laughed, argued, and helped each other. Edward says that he doesn't love Ace more than him or anyone. He doesn't care who Ace's father is. To him, they're all his family, and he wouldn't sell out a single one of them. It could have been anyone else on the Whitebeard crew, any of the 1,500, and he would have done the same. He's not angry, he's not blaming his son, he's simply making Squard understand his mistake and empathizing with him in a calm, fatherly manner. Personally, this is the most defining Whitebeard moment for me. This is the core of his character. This moment is enough to encompass Edward Newgate's entire journey, his entire purpose. Nothing matters more to him than his family. Unfortunately though, things don't go that well from here onwards. Ace is rescued by Luffy and the Whitebeard pirates are planning to escape, but Akainu has other plans. He taunts Ace by calling Whitebeard a coward. Akainu went as far as to say that Whitebeard was simply a self-proclaimed hero who roamed the seas with his fake family. At this point, after all that Whitebeard has done for Ace, he just couldn't bear listening to this narrow-minded admiral go about slandering the man that had risked everything for him. And so, Ace tries to fight Akainu, but ends up dying in the process. As Whitebeard witnesses the death of his son, tears flow down his cheeks as he goes into a rage, but then another problem arises. Teach, the boy Whitebeard had taken in, faces off against his father. Teach, being the one that started all this, is standing here at the very end. There's a brief battle between the two, and when it almost seemed that Whitebeard has won, the entirety of the Blackbeard pirates attack the wounded, old, and sick Whitebeard. As Edward lingers on the edge of his life, he thinks about all that he has accomplished. Not the battles he's won, not the wealth he's acquired, not the fame he's garnered. He thinks about all of the people that he has gathered. All of his sons and daughters that helped him make his dream come true and gave him a journey that was truly worth living. From an orphan living in a hellish war zone to traveling the seas with a group of people that he could proudly call his family. That was all Edward ever wanted. At last, Edward Newgate, the strongest man in the world, died by the hands of his own son. He died standing, and he carried thousands of wounds all across his body. Wounds from countless battles, conflicts, and scuffles lay bare for the world to see. However, in all his years, he never ran from a battle, and his back, his proud back that gave hope to his children as they followed in his footsteps, remained unscathed. From the beginnings of his years as a captain to the end, he only ever had one goal, one dream, and he stayed with it till the very end of his life. He lived for his family, and he died fighting for his family. After all, Edward Newgate, although bore many titles throughout his journey, was but a simple man with a simple dream. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and liking the video and all that jazz. Other than that, I guess I'll see you on the next one.